But moving on to Brooks with topic number 4. And man, I love this. This is bringing in some rivalry and some competition and, some trash talk into golf, which you rarely see that. But the Brooks Koepka versus Bryson DeChambeau, right? It's Chambeau or is it DeChambeau? It's DeChambeau. DeChambeau, a little bit of a rivalry going on here, and it really looks like Brooks does not like him.
This is awesome for golf. Okay, you need rivals in any sport. We always talk about rivals with the Celtics and the Lakers in the 80s. You talk about the Patriots and the Colts in the early 2000s. That's what makes great sports. In individual sports, it's even more important. When you look at boxers, it was Ali Frazier. You look at the 80s boxing middleweights, you have like Hagler, Hearns. You have those different kinds of rivalries. And different kinds of guys that are just competing and trying to get to the top. And I think in individual sports, especially in golf, right now, there's so many good players. But if you have two guys that you could pit against one another, it's got to be these two. You look at Brooks, and I'll explain what happened here. Brooks was doing an interview, I believe, on either the Golf Channel or NBC Sports. I think it was taped. I don't think it was live. And he was doing this interview. You can see Bryson DeChambeau walking right behind him during the interview. And you just don't do that. When a guy's doing an interview and you're going right behind him, you're ruining his concentration. It's kind of disrespectful to the TV guys, the reporter and the cameraman who are trying to do their job. And at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. But you saw Brooks just roll his eyes like, oh, this guy again, which means this isn't the first time that DeChambeau's pissed off Brooks Koepka. So already these guys just don't seem like they like each other. Then at the end of the segment, if anybody's watched it, the reporter was like, we'll make sure we don't put that on the air. Brooks is like, it's fine, don't worry about it. Like, Koepka didn't care. He was like, throw this out there.
Nope.
I don't like this guy. So you have that, and then you look at Koepka, who's just like, I know he just had his knee injury, so he's I want to say he's a machine. He's not a machine. He's a man, Rocky IV. But he is the robot. He goes up there. He's locked in. He's such an efficient golfer. He's so locked in at every tournament. Even though he didn't play great on Sunday, the PGA Championship, he was right there with Mickelson to the last few holes. And then you have DeChambeau, who's a character. He's got the scally cap. He bulked up to be this massive dude who swings like he's trying to hit the ball into outer space. And he has been competitive as well. He's a good golfer. He's not just a clown sideshow. He's a really good golfer. So you have one guy who's a character, one guy who's a robot. They're both probably two of the top 5 to 10 golfers in the sport right now. And if they have a rivalry, that is huge for golf. I think this is great.
No, I think it's great for golf. I hope more people see this because they'll want to see more of it, and it'll just bring more eyes back to golf. And when you have Tiger Woods on the sideline right now, when we all know he's the one that brings the eyes to golf, as old as he is even, and it doesn't matter, he is the number one draw in golf. So when he's out, somebody else has to step up to bring those eyes to golf. And like you said, I think this rivalry could be the one to do it. And a little bit more of that backstory of that interview, a rumor had it was that DeChambeau had a little something to say under his breath as he walked by about accuracy, because Brooks Koepka was talking about hitting his way around the greens there and setting up second shots in that interview and off the tee. So I think that was something else that, Brooks didn't like hearing. And so that's just one of those things. Like you said, he was like, hey, go ahead, put that on air. I don't like the guy, and I don't care if anybody knows. And so, hey, I would like PGA, pair these two up, man. Pair these two up. I want to see how they can play against each other. Will one of them crumble against each other, or will they just really go hole for hole and shot for shot? And I think it could make for some exciting viewing, especially of golf coming up. So if I have to pick a guy, though, if I have to pick one, I'm going with Brooks Koepka, because like when he gets his game on point, he is really tough to beat. And honestly, he had himself a good PGA championship. Phil just played a little bit better, but Brooks played pretty good. And so I'm telling you, look out for Brooks Koepka coming up in these upcoming tournaments, and especially in the next major. I think Brooks could come back and actually win it, because like I said, I think he's piecing his game back together. And he's looking pretty good right now. And like I said before, even in the topic before, he is in such great shape. If those two wanted to go toe-to-toe in the locker room, DeChambeau will get destroyed.
Bryce is a big dude too. That'd be a heavyweight bout between those two guys. I think the PGA messed up a little bit because we have the match coming up in a few weeks where Brady and Mickelson are paired together again, and then actually DeChambeau is going to play with Aaron Rodgers, which is going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be great to watch. Imagine if they put Brady with Koepka and Rodgers with DeChambeau. That would have been nuts. Not that, Rodgers and Brady are friendly, but the other two, that would have just been unbelievable. But I can see why they wanted Brady with Mickelson. You mentioned this before, and we talked about this when Tiger Woods got in his car accident. Who's going to step in and be the draw? And we saw it actually in both the last two topics. We saw, Phil, the fan favorite for a couple decades now, he was the draw in the PGA Championship. People tuned in because of him. So even though Tiger's out, you still got Phil Mickelson. It was almost like a reminder, don't forget about Phil Mickelson, even though he's 50. And then on top of that, you have now this rivalry. So golf's in a great spot. There's guys that who are really young players who have kind of struggled over the last couple of years. Rory McIlroy, I don't know where he is right now. I mean, he has just not been where he was just a few years ago. He won a couple of weeks ago, I believe, at the Byron, or I forget which tournament it was, maybe AT&T. But he just hasn't won a major in a long time. But you have so many guys that are chasing these majors now that then you add this rivalry on top of it. Then you add the 50-year-old Mickelson that can still win majors on top of it. And the U.S. Open is going to be great. I mean, the U.S. Open is going to be a lot of fun to follow in just a few weeks, right around Father's Day weekend. So that's going to be awesome. We're going to move on. Yep, go ahead, Brandon.
If I'm the PGA, man, let's throw a third group in that match and make it Brooks Koepka and Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it right now. Koepka, Pat Mahomes. I love it. I bet you Mahomes is a good golfer. I could picture him doing that. Well, we can even go outside the NFL. Put Steph Curry with Brooks Koepka. I'd like to see that too. That'd be awesome as well. So we'll see if maybe they'll try to add that later on in the year.